Welcome to Once Upon a Coin, documenting the ongoing history of blockchain and cryptocurrency. And as always, I'm your storyteller, Jason Cassidy. Everyone has a story, but let's face it, some are just more interesting than others. We are about to delve into one of the most fascinating yet overlooked tales to come out of the early days of cryptocurrency. It was born out of the libertarian movement that helped define the early era of crypto, first with Bitcoin and then with a handful of other altcoins. Coins that all tried to do something uniquely different from Bitcoin in hopes of giving themselves some separation and, more importantly, their own identity. Well, you're about to learn about what happened when a man took it upon himself to do just that. Except he wasn't just striving to give an altcoin an identity. He was doing it to give his own people a better way of life so that they could preserve their own identity. This is the story of Mazacoin.
Sun cast a shadow, a digital line is coming over the mountain and over your mind. Double down your Bitcoin, hang on for the ride. We're moving into the future, one block at a time. One block at a time.
I really love episodes like this because the hyper-focused nature of making money in crypto is temporarily put aside for something that I feel is much more important. Creating real use cases that show that blockchain has something of true value to offer humanity. Our adventure begins all the way back in the year of 2013. Bitcoin was on a crazy bull run, starting off the year in January around $13 US a coin, yet hitting an apex of over 1,200 US a coin in November. This bull market had garnered a lot of attention around the world, especially within the traditional media, who up until now had seldomly discussed it. One of those people who had taken notice was Payu Harris. He had learned about Bitcoin from a friend while working at a mall near the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, which was the tribal headquarters for the Oglala Sioux tribe. The Lakota are a North American people, and they're one of the three predominant subcultures that make up the Sioux tribe. Many years ago, they had settled in both North and South Dakota. And for Payu, Oglala Lakota County, formerly Shannon County, was where he called home. Like many early adopters, Payu went straight down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. He was mining on his laptop, reading all the documentation he could. Heck, he even taught himself a little bit on coding. Bitcoin had inspired him to take matters into his own hands. Oglala Lakota was the second poorest county in all of the United States, with its residents earning an average of just under 8,000 US dollars per capita. Beyond that, the life expectancy for men was just 48 years old, well below the national average. In other words, Oglala County was suffering badly, and Payu Harris wanted to do something about it. All right, to fully appreciate what we're about to discuss here, we should take a quick jump into the past. In 1975, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation became part of history for all the wrong reasons. This was a scene of a bloody shootout that took place between the FBI and North American activists. Blood was spilled on both sides, and it only helped to widen the gap of distrust and hatred that already existed between both parties. Looking into the past even further, Harris was able to link his lineage back to the Northern Cheyenne. This is one of the three tribes that came out victorious versus Lieutenant Colonel Custer at the legendary Battle of Little Bighorn. Suffice to say, between the history with the US government and the terrible economic conditions on Pine Ridge, there is some serious incentive to look for a homegrown solution. Fast forward to 2013, and Payu Harris was finding himself consumed with innovative ways that he could try and lift his people up through cryptocurrency. Payu made a fateful decision. He decided to take on the monumental task of having the Pine Ridge Reservation replace the US dollar with Bitcoin. Once word of his plan got out in December, it spread like wildfire throughout the media. He began a fundraising campaign to acquire a Bitcoin mining machine, hoping to eventually launch a cryptocurrency exchange and start getting local businesses accepting Bitcoin. He was able to get the approval of the tribal council to go ahead with the plan, managing to acquire 4 Bitcoin in the process. So things were working, and then there was a twist of fate that took place. Harris became the victim of a crypto hack, losing all of his coinage and threatening to derail the entire initiative before it even got off the ground. It was a pretty lousy way to close out 2013. As the calendar flipped over to 2014, the bull market was beginning to run out of steam, slowly ceding control to what would become a nasty crypto winter. But of course, you and I have the benefit of hindsight working for us. At the time, many people felt that the early part of 2014 was simply a buying the dip opportunity for crypto. Instead, it was the early onset of what would become a very long and arduous 3-year bear market. Undeterred by his recent setback, Payu Harris immediately shifted focus to a new plan. He would create his own cryptocurrency for his own community, one that was designed to meet the specific needs of his people. And that currency's name? Mazacoin. And in case you're wondering, there's some real meaning behind this name too. The word Maza means iron in Lakota, and they refer to money as Mazaska. Mazaska means white iron, which was the original way that silver coins were described. By early February, the media was once again picking up on Payu's story. But this time, it had an even more intriguing spin on it. A cryptocurrency that was made by the people, for the people. Payu was ready to write a new chapter in his people's history with the advent of Mazacoin. Little did he know at the time, but he would be adding to a much bigger chapter in the lore of cryptocurrency with what followed. He had formed a partnership with the Sioux Tribe's Office of Economic Development. This meant that they were willing to test out using Mazacoin as a replacement for the US dollar within Lakota County. In late February, the Maza blockchain was launched, kicking things off with the Genesis block. Harris mined 25 million coins and set them aside as a type of reserve fund for the Lakota Nation. But this also served as an incentive program as he could hand some out to local businesses to get them interested. Other tribes contacted Harris, wishing him well, while others were so taken in by the endeavor they were asking to see how they could get involved themselves. The FBI got involved too, going so far as to call Harris to remind him that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies weren't legal tender. This phone call didn't seem to faze Payu very much. As we've just discussed, his people have a long history with the FBI and the US government, and he was determined to use this method to lift his people above all of that turmoil. Mazacoin may have not been the first cryptocurrency to try and replace fiat in their local community or region. That honor goes to Iceland with Aurora Coin. But Mazacoin did have a heck of a lot of supporters around the globe, especially in the Native American communities. Oh, and by the way, the Aurora Coin story? Yeah, that's totally awesome, and there's already an episode that we made waiting for you to watch after this one. Harris conducted countless interviews in the months of February and March, capitalizing on all the increased interest that was now being put on Mazacoin. This also helped Mazacoin get listed on several exchanges, as demand around the currency continued to increase.
Mazacoin is a unique internet protocol that allows for seamless peer-to-peer financial transactions, completely secure, completely private. Mazacoin is changing finance the same ways that the horse changed our culture, because it's carrying us now into the future. And it can carry you into the future as well.
On March 7th, though, a damning article was released by the Native News Sun, stating the following. The Lakota tribe supposedly launched its own national currency. However, no one bothered to inform tribal president Brian Brewer or the Lakota Council. As you can probably imagine, this news didn't go over too well. Payu's reputation had now taken a serious hit, with most people looking at him at the very best as someone who'd overstepped their boundaries, but at the very worst, Payu could be a potential grifter. Within a few weeks, the price of Mazacoin collapsed amidst all of the controversy. And just a couple weeks later after that price collapse, the project was more or less considered dead on arrival. It made an attempt at a comeback in 2015, rebranding to just Maza and moving all open source code to GitHub. The project also changed up its messaging a little bit here, now promoting itself as a currency for all tribes and bands out there, not just Lakota. Not much noteworthy happened until 2017, and that's when the next great bull market in crypto took place. But by now, Mazacoin had lost a lot of its luster. It was no longer a novel concept, and thus it didn't receive much of the crazy price gains that a lot of already established coins did during this time period. And to be honest, and I know we're covering a lot of ground here, but even the great bull market of 2021 didn't do much at all to help Mazacoin. It was that bad. Now, you can still find the odd mainstream article that's out there that will give a kick at the can on NASA once in a while, with takes ranging everywhere from chronicling its crazy rise and then fall, to articles that are focused more on hopium and a chance for a revival in the future. Payu Harris is still determined to see Maza become a success, working with tribal elders that teach him the power of blockchain technology and what it can do for their people. The project does still seem active-ish, so if you're curious, you can always check out the website to see what the latest developments are. As someone who's had the privilege of working with Indigenous communities within my own country in the far north of Canada, this episode definitely hits home for me. I've seen firsthand the trauma that exists between the rift over Native American culture and governments over the years. It's an incredibly complex issue, and it's one that you first have to invest time into if you actually want to understand and help a culture that you're looking to liberate. I give Payu Harris credit for trying an idea that was so out of the box, it forced the entire world to start paying attention. The concept of a national currency that isn't a central bank digital currency or CBDC may be the stuff of dreams at this point more than reality. And yet, it's always the dreamers that have created disruptively positive change. I hope you enjoyed today's stroll down memory lane. Until next time, have fun and enjoy life, my friends. I'll be back soon with another incredible story to tell you.